Before I even get started, I do want to point out that the audio in this video is not going to be up to snuff like I usually want it to be. I tried recording this with my Blue Yeti microphone, but for whatever reason, Audacity just kept fucking up. So, unfortunately, we're just going to be using my camera audio, which isn't horrible, but it's not ideal. Now, I will do voiceover later on, so at least that's going for it. But for the unboxing portions, you're just going to have to listen to the camera audio. Just wanted to make that clear. Today's video is a very special one because we are unboxing, we got a box right over here. We are unboxing a system I have been wanting ever since I was probably 10 years old, 9 years old. Way back in the day, I used to watch a channel called Classic Game Room, and I used to watch it religiously. And even to this day, I will go back to those older episodes because I can watch them. I can watch them forever. I loved Classic Game Room, and in this box over here is a box full of crap that I've been wanting ever since I was young. I've been wanting to see this console for a very long time in person, so this will be very interesting for me. Also, this is a new series I'm probably going to be launching called Amateur Hour Unboxing, because as you can see, we have a towel here so the glare doesn't kill you, and I got a box over here. This is Amateur Hour at its finest. So put up with it, and maybe one day this will be a professional unboxing series. But until then, it's going to be Amateur Hour, boys. All right. First thing I want to open, and we'll take a look at, are some games, because they're on the top. At least most of them are. I may have to do a little digging for some of the later ones, but here we go. Ooh. These are in... I mean, the pictures said they were in pretty good condition, but to see them in person and they're not totally destroyed by USPS is actually really nice. So the first game I'm going to show you, Donkey Kong for the Atari 2600. Now, Donkey Kong, very classic arcade game, released all the way back in the day on just about every game system that there was at the time. At least I'm hoping this is the Atari version. I know for a fact, oh yeah, there it is, Atari Video Computer System. Now, the only reason I say that is because the ColecoVision cartridge looks exactly like this. And even on the top here, it says Coleco. So that's a little bit alarming. But one thing I love about collecting cartridges is that they all look slightly different. This is a Coleco cartridge, obviously, for the Atari, but I have other games over here that I will show you that, you know, what other companies did with their cartridges designs. And maybe one day I'll do a comparison for all of them because it's kind of interesting, and that's just something that doesn't happen anymore. I mean, well, we don't even really get physical games nowadays, so yeah, I'm throwing that theory out the window. But Donkey Kong. Alright. Pac-Man. Now, I don't hate Pac-Man by any means, but this is the worst version of Pac-Man that you can play for any system. I have yet to play a version of Pac-Man that was worse than this. When you collect Atari, you're gonna end up with some of these. You're gonna end up with probably 3 or 4 of these. Especially if you like to buy games in bulk. People usually have like a couple copies in them because nobody wants this. This is the worst version of Pac-Man, and it's just one of those games that you're just going to have to deal with when you collect for Atari. Pac-Man. Let's see here. We got Defender. Now, Defender is one of my favorite arcade games, probably like the number 3 or number 4 spot, but Defender on the Atari is actually a little bit different than Defender in the arcades. In fact, you could probably argue that it's an entirely different game, or maybe not an entirely different game, but different enough to where it could be its own thing. And honestly, I think that's what makes it interesting. I think the only kind of downside to this game is if you're in a pinch, you can't use your smart bomb so quickly, because in Defender the Arcade and other versions, You have two buttons, one to fire, one for smart bombs. And if you're in a pinch, you can't use those smart bombs because the 2600 only has one controller or one button. But yeah, Defender. What else we got here? Dig Dug. Dig Dug, classic Namco game, and one arcade game that actually translated pretty well to the Atari 2600. So did Defender, by the way, just a little bit different, like I said. The Atari 2600 was not really well known for its arcade conversions. Makes sense, you know, just the system wasn't really that powerful yet. It was really, yeah, there was the Magnavox Odyssey earlier, but let's keep it real. The reason why video games exist today is because of the Atari 2600. So, good version of Dig Dug. There's other versions out there, like the 7800 and the 5200 version of it. Frankly, those are just better. And obviously, nowadays, you can just get Dig Dug on like Xbox Live or PSN or PC. So, there's really not a whole lot of reasons to hunt out Atari games unless you're a collector like me, because I love this stuff. And I'm so excited to have this in my collection. So, yeah, Dig Dug. Let's see here. Star Raiders. Star Raiders, which that has some pretty cool artwork, despite the fact that it's a little bit grainy. Oh well, what are you gonna do? Star Raiders is kind of a cool first-person adventure in space. Video touchpad, huh? I never seen the video touchpad. I thought you just played this game with the keypads. Whatever. This is kind of a cool game. Like I said, first-person sort of space exploration game with some pretty fun combat. If you don't know what's going on in this game, you're going to put it in for 30 seconds and then turn it off because it's not going to make any sense. But if you do understand this game, you will put your time into it and find that it's actually a pretty cool game. The Atari computer versions of this game is definitely superior. The 5200 has a pretty cool version, but it's not too bad on the 2600, and if anything, it's more impressive because it's on the 2600. So, yeah, Star Raiders. We got Sword Quest Fireworld. I'm trying to get the glare off these damn cartridges. Woo. Anyways, Sword Quest Fireworld. If you don't know anything about Sword Quest, it's used to be this big old competition back in the day where Atari had people come together to play Sword Quest, and it was, you know, you had to solve secrets and all sorts of different mazes in order just to even get in late into the competition. Go watch AVGN's video on Sword Quest Fireworld, Waterworld, and Airworld, and yeah, on just the Sword Quest series in general, because it's a really interesting time in video game history where something like this just won't ever happen again. Like, yeah, we all come together on online gaming, but not like this. Like, it's different, but that's what makes it interesting. Fireworld. What else do we got here? We got Asteroids. Classic Atari game. I actually know where I can play a real arcade cabinet for Asteroids. You don't see those machines very often anymore, so it's really cool to play something like that. Asteroids on the 2600 is not bad. It had a pretty good translation from the arcade. Obviously not as good as, say, the 7800 version, which is definitely superior to this. But, you know, if it's, let's see, what's the copyright on there? 1981. If it's 1981 and you got Asteroids at home, you're set to go. Asteroids. Kangaroo. Here's a game that people probably haven't heard of in a while. Kangaroo is Atari's answer to Donkey Kong. It's different, definitely, but there's also a lot of similarities with this game and Donkey Kong. You're climbing up ladders. You gotta at least save your son. You play as the mother kangaroo right there. And like I said, very similar to Donkey Kong. However, you can punch monkeys. And that is the best thing ever because these guys, they love to chuck food at you and they're extremely annoying. So being able to punch them out is good to know. Kangaroo. Ooh, here's a game that I have never played, but I've seen footage of it. This screenshot looks very familiar. Space Jockey. Kind of looks like a side-scrolling 2D shooter, maybe like Vanguard or Scramble. Who knows though? 16 game variations. See, that was kind of the cool thing. And again, cartridges design. It's pretty cool to see the different cartridges. I'm assuming this is by Vidtech. Atari games usually had a bunch of games in their games, if that makes any sense. You have like 16 variations, and it kept up with replayability. So it wasn't just literally one game mode that you had to play and that was it. They did everything they could to try to make you keep replaying these games because, well, they're awesome. Space Jockey. Ooh, here we go. Cosmic Arc. Now, Cosmic Arc is a really cool game by Magic and very unique cartridge design. This is really cool. Cosmic Arc is a game where you play as a spaceship. You're a mothership and like a little UFO of some sorts. You got to go down to different kinds of planets and abduct different little types of aliens, all while dodging the planetary defense system for each one of the planets. This is a really fun game. If you've ever heard of the game Atlantis, oh my god, my hands are sweaty. It is a bit hot in here. But if you've ever heard of the game Atlantis for Atari, this is the sequel to Atlantis by Magic. And, well, I think it was just an interesting way to tie the two games together. But Cosmic Arc and Atlantis, looking to get Atlantis in my collection. So, yeah, pretty cool. And Sword Quest Earthworld. I just explained everything about Sword Quest, at least to the best of my ability. And like I said, go watch AVGN's video on Sword Quest. But this is pretty cool stuff to have this. So, yeah, Earthworld. Alright, the other games over here, we got 3 left. With one of my all-time favorite games ever created, Missile Command. Missile Command and Centipede are probably my favorite arcade games ever made. They're so classic, and the beauty of a game like Missile Command and Centipede is that you can play them on any system, and it's good no matter what. You don't need fancy graphics to make Missile Command fun. This is probably the version of Missile Command I've played the most. I actually just recently picked up the Atari 800 version of Missile Command, the computer version of this, which is basically the equivalent of the 5200 version, but you don't have to use that awful controller. But yeah, Missile Command, I already have a copy of this laying around because I figured one day I'd be collecting Atari. So, but I don't mind having a duplicate of this because you can never have enough Missile Command. Check out the artwork on that. That's the one thing I also love about Atari games is that they had incredible artwork, which, wow, it never showcased what the games looked like on the inside, but that's okay because the beauty of Atari was you had to use your imagination, and that was a cool time in gaming history. All right, Missile Command. Oh, what do we got here? Super Challenge Baseball. One of the weakest cartridge designs I've ever seen. Looks like they actually just cut out a whole sliver of the cartridge and call it good. This is actually very similar to an Intellivision cartridge, if you've ever used one of those. Super Challenge Baseball. Baseball games on the Atari 2600 suck. Okay? Even though I like Home Run because it's fun, it's not really like a great baseball game, if that makes sense. But yeah, maybe I have to pop this in and never play it again. Woohoo! And the last game, which looks like it was shoved up somebody's ass because this is kind of gross, Pole Position 2 for the Atari 7800. I mean, maybe someone got into a bar fight and they had Pole Position 2 in their pocket because this looks like blood and wine stains. I really probably should be wearing gloves while I'm touching this. So if you notice that I stopped making videos all of a sudden, I probably caught some disease while holding this cartridge right here. But in all seriousness, Pole Position 2 is definitely way better than the original Pole Position. The arcade version is really fun, but also just Pole Position on the Atari 7800 is better than it being on the 2600 because the 2600 is, admittedly, it's pretty boring. So Pole Position 2 is actually pretty fun. Yeah. All right, that is it for games. let's break out some other stuff here real quick. Oh God. Ladies and gentlemen, the worst, oh God, the glare's not working with me there. The worst controller, one of the worst controllers ever created, the Atari 7800 joystick. This is terrible. Okay, you want to know what's butt cheeks? If you grew up in places like Europe or Australia, you got a gamepad for your Atari 7800, and it looks like the NES gamepad. I'll put a picture of it on screen, but it's, I mean, I understand this is still like the early days of gaming where they didn't really know what to do yet, but this is not very good. This joystick barely moves, and trying to, this just feels like crap, but that's all I have right now. Maybe someday I'm gonna have to break out the Sega Genesis controllers, because I can already tell you right now, like, this is not very comfortable to play with. Trying to hammer that button over here and trying to play a game. This thing is probably gonna slip out of my hands while I'm playing, so. Hooray! But the best part is that it has this nice stainless steel, well, at least it used to be, Atari logo. So that is the best part of the controller. But yeah, not looking forward to playing with this thing. I haven't even played a game with this yet, and I can already tell you this is just as bad as like the Intellivision controller or the ColecoVision controller or the 5200. I mean, it's up there. It's one of the worst, and I don't know if they're supposed to spin like this, but this thing feels pretty flimsy. Now, these are like 40 years old, so yeah, that's just kind of bound to happen. But we got some instruction manuals. Now, these are really cool. Especially because I think this, yep, it comes with the Sword Quest comic books. So back in the day, Sword Quest, this is when video games used to come with comic books and really cool manuals. And they always have like some story in them, and they're really nice and detailed. There's the Cosmic Arc idea. Very cool stuff. Star Raiders. Video touchpad. I need to figure out where I can get a video touchpad, because I thought you just used the keyboard controllers, but maybe not. We'll have to test out that at some point. And last but not least, Space Jockey. Looks like it's just a side-scrolling shooter. I have more Atari games on the way too. By the way, these are made by DC. That's pretty cool. And the artwork on these things is just gorgeous. I've seen scans of these online, and this comic book is actually in pretty decent condition. This is pretty nice. You don't expect stuff like this to really be in this good condition for how old they are. And thank you to the seller who took care of their shit. Yeah. So those are the manuals. I'm trying to get this thing open off camera. This is really embarrassing. Like I said, amateur hour unboxing. Only the highest quality of entertainment on YouTube is on my channel. Look at this beast. This. Oh God, that glare. This is the Atari 7800 Pro System. Now, I went with the 7800 because you can play both 2600 and 7800 games. In fact, 7800 has this really nice strip across the middle, makes it straight out of the 1980s. 7800 was released, well, it was originally supposed to be released in like 1984, 1983, but due to the video game crash, they just couldn't release it. So they held off on it, and after the Nintendo Entertainment System came out and was making a big success, they decided to release the 7800. Unfortunately, it never caught on. It was kind of, people had lost faith in Atari at that point. So, it makes sense why they wouldn't go with the 7800. But this is really a great game system, and a lot of improvements from the 2600 and of course that awful 5200, which the 5200 console itself is huge, and it has some really impressive looking games on it, but that controller is literally unplayable. So this thing is really nice though. They added a pause feature. I actually don't know if that works for 2600 games. I guess we'll test that. We got a game select here, reset button, power. Now, what makes this 7800 special from other normal 7800s is that I got this one modded. Let me see if it's around here somewhere. I got, really? Where is it at? There it is. I got this thing modded. So it can output composite and S-video because RF adapters are trash. I'm going to have to clean up this stainless steel thing at some point because it definitely deserves it. It's not too beat up though. Like, I'm really surprised, and well, I'm going to plug it in and see if this thing actually works. So hopefully it's not totally trashed, because that would be one hell of a way to end your day, right? If it's all something you waited for forever and it's not working. That sounds awesome. So I'm going to switch camera angles and we're going to figure that out if it's working or not. I tested out every single game that I got with the 7800, including some of the games I have already owned, like Adventure and Haunted House. I am really impressed with this system. I'm really happy I got this, especially how I got this modded. I will recommend this for anybody collecting old school game consoles. Get it modded for composite or S-video. It looks better. And while the video quality here doesn't do it justice, it does look much, much better than an RF signal would. I mean, it's Atari. It's not going to look super incredible to begin with, but just a little bit of extra quality really helps out. Sound quality is also really good off this thing. You'll hear me hammering at the controller and fighting with the controller the entire time because it is so bad. Son of a bitch. The system came with 2 controllers, and one of them doesn't even work, which I'm not torn up over. God. Oh no. Game over. Honestly, what I'm gonna do is just grab some Sega Genesis controllers and use those, because frankly, why would you ever want to use a joystick when you can use the Sega Genesis controller? It's incredible. All the games worked pretty good, except for one game that just didn't look right, which was Cosmic Arc. It doesn't look as good as it should, which, like I said, I'm not too worried about. It's Atari, man. You know, I use my imagination. That's the beauty of it. But that's pretty much all I wanted to say. I do have some extra games on the way that I am going to be showing off pretty soon. I don't think this game works. And I did pick up some paddle controllers. I just don't have any paddle controller games to test them out on. So maybe at some point in the future, we'll revisit the Atari 7800. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is my unboxing of the Atari 7800 Pro system. Do I recommend this thing? Absolutely. My battery is about to die, so I'm going to make this quick. Don't bother with these controllers. Actually, this controller, I have 2 of them, but this one doesn't even work. So not a big deal though. Like I said, I'm just going to be switching to the Sega Genesis controller. And you know what? I'm going to hunt down that Atari 7800 gamepad, because that thing looks awesome. I actually have some more games coming in the mail, so maybe I'll have to do a pickups video on top of this one. But that is going to be it. I highly recommend the Atari 7800 if you want to get into Atari. And I also recommend getting the composite video mod. Also, make sure you get yourself a better power supply. I made sure to get one for this console because these things are so old. Those old power supplies are probably long dead, or at least they're about to be dead. So that is what I recommend. Get yourself a 7800. This thing is beautiful, and expect to see some game reviews for the Atari 7800 and more reviews for the 2600. I love collecting for the system. So that'll be it for it today. And I'm going to make sure to throw this thing into a volcano so I can never play with it again. So, see you later.